really... Hi. Creeping in my...
What is that?
Do you ever fit another one in this hand? That's the real question. This is the test. If you're a good YouTuber, how many books you can hold up here. Okay. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be doing this video because I was actually showering yesterday and I was trying to think of video ideas and I was thinking about videos you guys have asked for. I keep forgetting that people like my book videos. And I was like, okay, let's do another book video. Thought process, and then I was like, why wouldn't I share with you guys my favorite series? Because I am a huge series person. Probably the most out of anything I read are series because I find them more captivating. You get to know the characters better, you feel more connection to the story, and oftentimes the story is more developed, and I thought that I would share with you guys some of my favorite series of all time. And you will notice probably a common thread amongst these books I'm about to mention. A lot of them are fantasy. I am a huge fantasy fan. Also very exciting, and another thing that you guys recommended to me is to start a GoodReads account, and I'd actually never heard of GoodReads before. Maybe I just live under a rock. That is possible. But I never heard of it, and I had a few comments saying, start a GoodReads account, and I was like, you guys are really smart. Okay, so I went on and saw what it was all about, and I just made an account, so if you guys want to follow me on there, you totally can. I don't really know how the whole thing works yet, but I will put my link down below, and I will have my ratings of all these books that I'm about to talk about as well on my account. So if you want to know more about my thoughts on these books, that will be on my GoodReads account. I'm very excited about it, so I'm going to be kind of updating that more often about what books I'm currently reading and also about past books that I've read. I'm very excited about it. I'm still kind of getting a handle for it, and I kind of have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm excited. So let's get into some of my favorite series. The first series I really remember reading that really has stuck with me my whole life is Harry Potter. And I read Harry Potter when I was in like grade 3 or 4, and not even all the books were out and all that. And I remember when the Deathly Hallows came out, and I remember we were in Christina Lake. I don't know if you guys know where that is in BC, but it's basically in the middle of nowhere, like compared to where I live. Middle of nowhere, and we went out at like midnight to get this book at this one bookshop, and it was amazing. So my whole family, like my cousins, like everyone, we all have read Harry Potter. It's kind of a family classic in my family. That's kind of where my love for fantasy started, I think. But one of my favorite things about that series in particular is that as the books go along and as Harry gets older, the writing becomes more mature, and I really appreciate that because I felt like I was growing with him. That's part of the reason I love series so much, because you feel like that connection with the characters. So that's definitely one of my all-time favorite series, and I just love it, and there's nothing that I could compare that to. To me, Harry Potter stands alone on, it's just amazing. The other series that I've read is Lord of the Rings, another classic, and I love classics. I love classic series especially, and Lord of the Rings was something I read I think like 2 or 3 years ago when I had mono, and I was seriously sick, and I would just spend my days reading Lord of the Rings. And the coolest thing about Lord of the Rings is that it's so relevant still. Like, even though the story is something that we can't even fathom because it is fantasy, you can still connect the struggles that these characters go through to your life and to situations that you've been through. And I actually had one of my profs quote Lord of the Rings, and I was just like, thank you. Thank you! So those books are amazing. They look really big, but they're not. They're very manageable, I would say. And The Hobbit, obviously, I read. I mean, I liked The Hobbit, but compared to Lord of the Rings, like, to me, there's not really a comparison. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? So I guess I'll talk about my 2 favorite young adult book series, which I talked so much about, and I think I have individual reviews on these as well. I feel like this is kind of predictable. Can you predict it? I think you probably can. Hunger Games and Divergent. Both of these I read when I was a young adult. I think I still consider myself a young adult. I don't know. Am I allowed? Sure, why not? These are so well written, especially for a young audience. I think that they really, especially for me, they really made me think about things that I probably wouldn't have thought about if I hadn't been reading these. Hunger Games, this really changed my reading perspective. I started reading this before the first movie came out. I like to read the books before movies, and that's just me. It just really, like, was very interesting to me, like how there was such mature themes written at in a way that someone young can understand and comprehend. I just felt like it brought different ideas to my head that I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't read the book. Other than that, the characters, and that's one of the things that I loved about The Hunger Games, were the characters themselves. Like, you just loved every character, or you really, really did not like the character. But that takes skill as an author to do that, right? To like make you really like someone and make you really not like someone. And I felt such a connection to all these characters in these books. Therefore, like, I actually felt like these were my friends. This series is by far one of my all-time favorites, and I feel like when I have children one day, this will be something I'm gonna say to them and be like, this was an amazing book, and this is something that was so popular when I was young, and oh my gosh, that's so weird to think. Seriously, amazing. I'm sure you all have read it. And Divergent, the only reason I'm a little tainted towards this book is because I didn't like the ending, and I've done a review on the series. I've done a whole review, so I'll just link that down below, and I'm pretty sure I did one on The Hunger Games too. I can't even remember, but I'll link them all back down below. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I didn't like the ending of the series, and when you don't like the ending of a series and you've invested time and money in 3 books, it's very discouraging. And I also didn't like the fact that she wrote for the book from the guy's perspective. I just felt like really, like, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm, again, like, old-fashioned when it comes to this, but it seemed to me like a money thing, and I don't like that. People would have died for that in The Hunger Games and in a lot of the other series that I'm talking about, but for the author to be like, no, that's it, that's all I'm giving you, to me, that's like, that makes me like them more. No, just end the series and leave it. That's kind of how I felt. I don't know, you guys could probably disagree with me, but I know a lot of you didn't like the end of the series as well, because I got a lot of comments. I didn't feel as much of a connection to these characters as I did in The Hunger Games. I don't know why I'm just comparing the two, but they're both great. I really love this series, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna read one, The Hunger Games is like the top of those 2 series. This is actually a series that I haven't heard much about, and I haven't heard many people talk about, and I recently read online that they might be making a TV show of it, which I kind of hope they don't, because it's just so confusing to me when I, for example, talk about Game of Thrones to people, and they're like, oh my god, yeah, I love it. I'm like, oh yeah, like, what book was your favorite? Oh, I've never read the books. You don't like it then. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, again, I like to read the books before I invest in the TV show or the movie. But when it comes to this series, which is called The King Killer Chronicle, quite the tongue twister, I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I just finished Game of Thrones, and I wanted something like fantasy and sort of similar but different, obviously. So I picked this up and I fell in love with it. It's much more challenging than the young adult ones I just talked about, in the sense where it's much more complex. Like, the characters are more complex, the storyline is more complex, and you might not understand anything that's going on in the moment, but it's like so interesting and captivating, and it's very unique from anything that I've ever read before, which is why I loved it so much. So we have my reading buddy. If you follow me on Instagram, while I'm studying for exams and like tests or anything, she's always with me. Like, she knows, she's like giving me wisdom. Right here. Wisest thing I know. Anyways, as I was saying about this book, I think there's going to be a 3rd book. I don't know when it's coming out. I tried Googling it. Found no answers. I love it. I love this. And like I said, it's very unique from other series where I feel like it could be similar to a lot of other things. It's not. So definitely check this one out if you're interested in some fantasy. Again, I've already mentioned this a couple times, but I will talk about it again. The Song of Ice and Fire, which is the Game of Thrones series, I actually don't know where the 1st book is. I think I lent it to someone, and now it is missing in action. This is the 2nd book in the series, and I believe there's 5 right now. I think there's a 6th coming out. Is that right? Yes. 4 or 5. Wait. So there's 5 right now, and then there's a 6th one that's happening at some point. So I just find it very interesting how, like, the TV show, like, what are they gonna do before the other book comes out? Are they just gonna like make you wait like 3 years? I don't know. I don't really watch the TV show like religiously. I did watch the first couple seasons here and there just to see like what it was like and how true to the book it was, and I did like the fact that it was very true to the book. And these, again, I know they're very massive and a lot of people just don't read them because of that reason. I feel like that's so sad because these are really, really, really well written. There's not a part in the book where you're like, I don't need to read this, I'll skip it, because everything connects in the end. And it might not connect all in this one book, but it'll connect in the next one or the next one. Sometimes you're reading it and it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of like history. Like, it feels like, you know, medieval history. But then like something sort of mystical and magical happens and you're like, no, This is fantasy. So I like that about these books where the fantasy is like put so perfectly into it where it almost seems like, yeah, this could have been real. I feel like George R.R. Martin can do no wrong. Like, he's one of my favorite authors, and he literally is like the coolest person. I'm pretty sure he lives on a houseboat. What's cooler than a houseboat? Absolutely nothing. And like I said, don't be afraid of the size if that intimidates you, because I totally get that. I definitely do. See it as a challenge and take your time. Read another book at the same time if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. So I personally love big books, like the bigger the better for me. The last series I'm going to mention is the Millennium Trilogy, which I actually did not know that was the title. This is the second book in the series. Again, I lent out the first one, and again, I don't know where it is. So this is The Girl Who Played with Fire, but the one you probably have heard is The Girl Who Has the that's not right. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which you probably have all heard of, and then the newest one is The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. The interesting thing about these books is that the author Stieg Larsson, and I feel like I'm right about this, actually passed away while these books were being written, and he basically never finished editing them. He never finished cutting things out. So often when you're reading these books, there will be sections that kind of seem to go on excessively, and because they are so big, there were times I remember skipping a few sections just because it was so repetitive and just like over the top, too much information basically. These are really, really good. I wouldn't recommend these to everyone. They have very mature themes. If you've seen the movie of Girl Who with the Dragon Tattoo or whatever, you know that there's lots of mature themes in that movie, and so the books are like a million times worse in my opinion. I watched the Swedish versions of the movies, and then I never watched the English ones when they came out, even though I really like Daniel Craig and I really like Rooney Mara, so I'm not really sure. But that one scene where she is being raped is like way too much for me. Even when I was reading it, I remember being like, oh, okay, need to step away for 10 years now. That was really heavy and just very graphic. But that's how well written it is, where it makes you feel uncomfortable. And I feel like that takes skill. So these are amazing books. Again, like I said, this is a challenge, and part of the reason why it's a challenge is because it's not edited like most of your other books that you'd read. It's a lot more wordy than a lot of the books you read, and there's not as much dialogue, which I find is easier to read than just like description. Although I like description, but do you know what I mean? So these are good. I would recommend them, but not to everyone. If you're interested in them, definitely try it. And if you don't like him, then, you know, don't worry about it. But I really did enjoy them, and I found the characters very interesting, especially, and I find a lot of the time with older, more classic fantasy books, including Lord of the Rings, including Harry Potter, oftentimes the main character is a male. And it's true in this book, but it also follows a female who's extremely strong. And I loved reading about a strong woman who, yeah, she had her issues, and yeah, she's had her struggles, but she was like a fighter. And anyways, just read it. You'll like it. It's very good. But it's very extreme. I don't know how I feel about it. I like it, but it's definitely not my favorite series. But I do really like it. I don't know. Emily, let's stop. That concludes my favorite book series. I'm sure I've forgotten a lot, but I kind of wanted to share with you guys some of my favorites, and then in the future if I wanted to do some of my least favorite series, because there are a few out there that I can think of off the top of my head that I didn't like so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got something out of it, and like always, I would love to hear your book recommendations down below, or I think you can recommend me books on GoodReads. I don't know, can you? Is that a thing? This is like way too above me. Like, this is when I start feeling old. I'm like, I can't even work at this website. It's very sad. Go follow me on GoodReads. Go check out what books I'm reading right now. Go check out my cat sneezing. That's cute. Let me know if you've read any of this series I mentioned, and if you want to check any of them out. And again, recommendations. You guys have great book recommendations. I'm always writing them down and heading to the bookstore and being like, ooh, let's see what's out there. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all very soon. If you have any videos that you'd like to see, I know I want to do a room tour once my room is really done and all put together, and I also want to do a desk tour. Other than that, I have no other ideas. So if you have any ideas, put them down below. And yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys have a great day. See you soon. Bye.